The Hidden Cove. Master Eki rose with the dawn and stepped outside his seaside hut to greet the new day. He paused to bow towards the ocean, hands pressed together in humble reverence. The endless waters had anchored his daily rituals for over 4 decades now. Eki listened to the hushed rhythm of waves swishing over sand and stones. Then he picked up his walking stick and set off down the wooded trail that ran behind his hermitage. This narrow ribbon of dirt led along coastal cliffs and across fern-lined gullies. Eki followed its winding course at an unhurried pace. Though he could no longer move quickly on account of his advanced age, he savored the leisurely walk. It gave him time to appreciate the forest's small delights, a delicate orchid blooming beside the path, drops of dew clinging to spiderwebs, the smell of pine needles crushed underfoot. At last the forest opened up, and Eki emerged onto a rocky outcropping overlooking the sea. Far below he could see waves crashing against stone shoals. The incoming morning tide was gradually swallowing up the boulder-strewn point that connected the headland to the mainland. When the waters rose fully, the headland would become an island cut off from the shore. Eki carefully descended the steep trail clinging to the cliffs. Loose gravel shifted treacherously under his feet, keeping him cautious. But the monk was sure-footed from a lifetime of daily hikes to the hidden cove nestled beneath the headland's rocky bulk. Reaching the bottom safely, Eki clambered over wave-smoothed boulders until he arrived at a crescent of black sand beach, sheltered between protective arms of stone. Accessible only when the tide permitted, this secluded cove had been Eki's private refuge ever since he discovered it over 40 years ago. Now white-haired and frail, his devotion to this place had never lapsed. Eki settled onto a flat rock facing the sea. The bay was utterly still, its surface reflecting the dawn sky like a flawless green mirror. No birds cried. Not a breath of wind stirred. The quiet was profound and absolute. Closing his eyes, Eki allowed the stillness to envelop him completely. He entered a meditative state, emptying his mind of all distracting thought and sensory input. Calm awareness became a vessel into which the cove's silence could pour. Long ago as a young monk, Eki had struggled greatly with meditation. But here in this womb of stone, secluded from the world, he found he could slip into trance with little effort. Cut off by the tide and cocooned in emptiness, Eki perceived the true nature of reality more vividly than ever possible within the walls of the monastery. This hidden cove had become the temple where he could touch the face of the Absolute. When at last Eki opened his eyes again, he saw with amazement that the sun had climbed high overhead. Hours had passed in what seemed like a single timeless moment. The old monk unfolded his stiff legs and rose slowly. His joints ached terribly after sitting so long motionless upon the hard stone, but Eki did not mind such fleeting discomforts. The revelations received in exchange were more than worth their cost. He bowed in gratitude towards the secret cove that had imparted such wisdom over the years. By the time Eki climbed back up to the coastal trail, it was nearly midday. The tide had risen to seal off the headland, cutting him off from shore. But the monk did not worry. He simply followed the forest path further inland until it looped around and reconnected to the mainland. Eki was in no hurry to return home. He paused frequently along the shaded trail to rest his tired bones. Late in the afternoon Eki arrived back at his seaside dwelling. He drank from the freshwater spring, then prepared a simple meal. Settling on the stone steps, he ate his rice and vegetables mindfully. The cry of gulls echoed up from the rocky point along with the perpetual murmur of ocean waves. Eki savored the setting sun's golden light dappling the trees. He recited a short prayer of thanks for the gifts he had received from the hidden cove, as he did every evening. Then the monk retired to his Spartan quarters to reflect and meditate in solitude as the world grew dark around him. This story was inspired by the serenity found while appreciating the quiet beauty of nature alone. The hidden cove represents a place of spiritual discovery and insight through the uncomplicated stillness it offers. By retreating there routinely, the monk deepens his wisdom away from external distractions. While nature's outward appearance shifts, its inner truth remains eternal for those who learn to listen.